next corset review. This corset is from Axfords and it's style C242. So here's the front, the side, the back, and the other side. The length of this corset in the center front is 11 inches. However, you can clearly see along the hips that it is a long line corset. My hips actually start right up here. It features hip gores. They call it fluted panels on the website, and it is very, very comfortable. I'm actually quite surprised at how well this fits me, because this is a 22-inch corset, and in most off-the-rack 22-inch corsets I can usually only cinch to about 23 or 23 and a half inches. This one is almost entirely closed. I think I maybe have about half an inch in the back there. So I was quite surprised that it gives you enough room in the rib cage and in the hips. So this is quite a curvy corset. Alright, so here's the corset laid out flat. The material, the strength layer, is this inside lining here. It's a very tightly weaved, plain white cotton coutil. It's not herringbone, but it is still coutil even though it has a plain weave. On top of the strength fabric, you can see there's this beautiful coral satin, and then on top of the satin is the white lace, and it's not a lace print, it's actual, if I can sort of separate that, you can see it's actual lace flatline to it. And a lot of these fabrics are actually exclusive to Axfords. I'm not sure about the lace, but definitely the coutil on the inside and the satin, they have a group of people that actually weave these fabrics specifically for Axfords. In terms of the construction for this corset, there are 6 main panels here. See, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the 6th one is this plain white satin one. And then there are additional 2 hip gores, the fluted panels, right there. How this was basically put together is the coutil on the inside, the satin, and the lace were all flatlined together, and then adjacent panels were basically top stitched or faux flat felled seamed together. And then on the inside here, you can see that there are internal boning channels made out of twill tape or Prussian tape. And I don't feel or see a waist tape in this corset. However, despite it not having a waist tape, it really hasn't stretched or ripped any seams at all while I was breaking it in. And I suspect it might have something to do with these internal boning channels here, because the channels are centered along the seams of the 2 adjacent panels. Then, you know, it has one seam on one panel, one seam on the other panel, and it might take a lot of stress off of that initial seam, that stitching between those 2 main panels of the corset. And here you can see a close-up of the binding on the top and bottom of the corset, and you can see they didn't actually use any commercially made bias binding. They actually used this grosgrain ribbon, if you can see the texture on this, and it's actually quite pretty. And they just machine stitched it neatly both on the outside and on the inside here. And here is the lacing protector, and as you can see, it's quite stiff, like it kind of stands up by itself. So it is stiffened with something. It's not boned, but it has something in it, and I actually really like what they did with this lacing protector, because I don't have to adjust it while I'm tying up my corset. It basically stays flat on my back, more or less, and it doesn't bunch up, but it does not feel too stiff on my back, so it bends with the contours of my spine. And on the front here, there's no Modesty placket behind the busk. However, there is one in front of the busk here, with this little flap here. So when you actually close the corset up like so, then the flap covers the busk there, so you just have like a nice smooth visual line down the front. The busk itself is 10 inches long, and it's actually quite a heavy-duty busk. You can see it's quite a bit stiffer than your standard flexible busk, and it's also 1 inch wide on each side instead of the standard ½ inch wide. And after doing the last video, I realized that it would probably have been a lot easier to show you the bones in here by looking at the inside instead of the outside, since the boning channels tend to be concealed beneath the lace here. So looking at these bones, there are 14 in total. So there are 5 spiral steel bones on each side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then another 5 on the other side. And just like the previous corset that I had reviewed by Axfords, they're a heavier duty 7mm wide spiral steel bone, not the standard 5mm wide. And so that gives you just a little bit more stability than before. And then in addition to those spiral bones, you also have 2 1/4 inch wide flat steel bones, spring steel, on either side of the grommets here. Here's a close-up of the grommets, and there are a total of 30 two-part size 00 grommets that they used in this corset, so 15 on each side. And you can see that on the outside the grommets are very nice and smooth, no fraying or pulling. Here's a close-up of the inside of the grommets here. You might be able to see that there are quite a few splits on the insides of these grommets. However, surprisingly to me, the splits don't actually have any negative effect on the corset. The laces have never caught on them, and they don't seem to be pulling out or anything. So really the effect of the splits in the underside of the grommets is negligible. And here are the laces themselves. You can see that they're thin, flat shoelace style laces. They're very strong. I feel that they're cotton. They have absolutely no stretch to them, and they always give you more than enough to work with. So if you're one of those people who like to tie up their corset by, say, hooking it over a doorknob, then Axfords will definitely give you enough lace for you to be able to do that. The price for this particular corset with the lace overlay is £125. However, on the website there's a similar style called the C239, I think, and it doesn't have the lace overlay, and you can get that for £10 less, so it's only £115. So that's all for this corset review. Thank you for joining me. As always, if you have any comments or questions, leave them down below, and I'll talk to you in the next video. Bye!